We all continue to wait for high school football to take place. Right now, the plan is for that to take place second week of October with a 6, 7, or 8 game regular season with playoffs to follow. And teams are preparing accordingly, even though they can't gather together as teams as we speak. Joining us now is a gentleman that's had to navigate all kinds of landmines over the course of his brilliant career. 29 seasons as a head coach on the high school level, a couple of different stints as a coach at Tulane University. And, oh, by the way, he ranks 11th all-time in Louisiana prep football history with 275 wins, doing that in just 29 seasons as a head coach at several outstanding institutions, be it Lutcher, Riverside Academy, Jesuit, and, of course, at St. Charles Catholic, where he resides now and has a state championship to his credit. He is, of course, the one and only Frank Monica. Frank, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to the show.
Well, guys, thanks for having me. You could have come help me cut my grass, you know. I can't do this much longer. I'm about ready to get some Italian Bermuda grass, which is concrete. What do you think?
Well, I thought you were going to – I understand. I thought you were going to let the grass grow high because you got nobody that runs under a 5 flat 40 so that you'd let it grow like weeds so that you'd slow the opponent down.
Well, put it this way, I got mole crickets on my football field bigger than my offensive lineman. That's not a good deal. But and they got more legs. But no, it's good to finally get back to practice a little bit.
Coach, are you going to be able to break the huddle this fall or what?
Well, you know, the good thing about that, we can't huddle. So that's a good thing that's happening right now. And, Ed, because they won't let us huddle, you got everything 6 foot apart. It's like Pop Warner. I mean, the coaching that, the kids take their jerseys home. They can't go inside the dress. I mean, and you can't have a team meeting. I mean, it's like coaching Pop Warner. We're getting a little bit done, but as right now, my offensive line hadn't missed a block because they're blocking air. So I said, guys, they got a perfect score so far.
Coach, how frustrated are you about this whole situation?
I am totally frustrated. Number one, I was hoping that we'd give it a start, earlier start than October 9th. And if they stop us, they stop us. But I think the people that want to play, and a lot of the kids want to play, and coaches want to coach for sure. And but you know, if they stop us is one thing. But other states are opening up this weekend, and I think that I know that we talked about the numbers out there, and but from what I understand, I'm no doctor, but when I understand that these young kids are more immune to it than you and I, and so I think that the ones that I know that have the virus, and then they're asymptomatic. They just tested, but they go on about their business, and they have to be quarantined as such. But yet I think the whole deal. I think the guys want to play football. I think we'll have football, and but it's going to be really modified in the way they're talking about with the restrictions. And you can go tackle somebody on the football field, but yet when an opponent that you don't know, but yet when you go to the sideline, you with your teammates again, you have to stand 6 foot apart with your mask on. That's going to be hard to regulate all that.
Frank Monica with us from St. Charles Catholic. Without revealing anything from a name perspective, have you had any outbreak or any tests that have been positive or anything of that nature?
We've had 2 kids, and one of them was our fine linebacker who was already back on the team, and he just was quarantined. He tested twice. First time was negative, and we've had 2 cases of it on our football team, and hopefully that one's back and one's being quarantined right now. And I think the good thing is that we haven't had any other situations like that, and this is the only 2 that we've had all summer long. So hopefully that we'll stay at that number. Our school is about ready to open up, and we're going to open up live on Monday, and with only 12 in the classroom, and we've taken tremendous precautions to make sure that this thing works.
Visiting with Frank Monica of St. Charles Catholic, and everyone has an opinion, and I respect all opinions. Ed and I just spent 20 minutes talking about that. Regardless of our own opinions, we both would love to see an opportunity to play if it's safe. And again, that's defined by whom? Somebody's got to make that determination, but what's happening is people are making that determination for others in the process as we speak. I think this –
great point.
Go ahead.
Good point, Ken. This is the thing. If you're a pro player, you have the rest of your career. You can play it out for 5, 10 more years. If you're a college player, the NCAA has granted them another year of eligibility. But if you're a high school guy, this is it. If you're a high school senior, you don't get that extra year of eligibility. And I think that's huge, and that's something that needs to be mentioned, taking consideration with some of these guys. And if they don't want to play, I'm fine with that. I just think there are a lot of schools out there and maybe some other people that decide not to do it. But no matter what, Mr. Bonine, I think, has been very, very aggressive about he wants to play, but yet the governor has the trump card. I mean, we're playing Blu-ray here, and no matter what, he has the ace of trump. And, I mean, it doesn't matter what you and I say. He's going to control this from that standpoint.
Yep, that was the next thing I was going to bring up, is that even though there have been vast disagreements amongst the membership in the LHSAA from select to non-select schools, I do think, and I feel strongly, the LHSAA has done an excellent job with this particular issue, because they are doing everything possible, everything imaginable to try to have not just a football season, but to have volleyball, to have cross country, to have soccer, to have all the sports. And I commend what they've done, even though they've taken criticism on some fronts politically, which I think is ridiculous.
Right, I agree with you totally. I mean, that's a hard call. Who has the right answers? No one knows. If we don't. I mean, it's an invisible enemy. No one knows what the right answer is. The only thing is, I would just wish we'd at least attempt it, and then if they stop us, okay. But if we don't attempt it at all, we're going to sit back and say, well, why didn't we do it? I mean, there's a lot of second guessing going on here because we don't really know what the end is and what the final answer is. But I do know this: if teams, I go back to say this, if they do not want to play, leave that up to them. Even if we have to mix it up, select, non-select, even if we mix that up and play, I know these guys want to play football. And from a financial standpoint, I'm also for allowing fans to come in, because as a parent, you're going to go watch your son play, no matter what restrictions we put on our parents. They deserve to have watch their son play, especially if a guy had been in the program 4 or 5 years, and then all of a sudden you tell him that you're shutting the season down. And until it really affects these young teenage kids that's supposed to be in shape, and we're taking all the precautions that we can possibly take with them, until it really impacts them an awful lot. And I know Coach, you're being callous to this effect, but I do know that we've identified who it does attack. And I'm not no doctor, but I think, and even if they come up with a vaccine, a lot of my friends and myself included, I would not take it anyway, because, I mean, the flu's been there for years, and how many people take the vaccine for the flu?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Frank Monica with us, and I'll let Ed jump in a moment. But here, the other point I was going to make is that Mississippi came out yesterday, and the governor, Tate Reeves, said that high school, football and sports can take place starting first week of September, and they're putting a limit on who can attend the games, 2 members per player, which would include a band member, could include a cheerleader, whatever the case may be. So there are severe limitations about who can go to the game, but at the same time, they're moving forward with a plan to play, Frank.
Right. And I think that's what I like to see. Okay, if they're stopped, at least there's an attempt there, and because I would hate to see this be a senior's final hoorah when a kid, especially if he's a dual sport player. He already missed a season as a junior in baseball, and now he's coming to our track or something like that. Now he's coming to football. He has that called off. I really think we will play, and is October late enough? I don't know, but I think one more bump, and I think we're done. And so I hope that we don't get bumped again.
Coach, what about, let's just say you had a game scheduled against a team in another parish that wasn't at the same level as you were. Potentially you couldn't play, right?
Yeah, potentially, no. That's exactly right. But what I'm saying is that it's like the major leaguers have done. They tested a group of them that had the virus. They stopped them temporarily, but they went back to playing again. I mean, if that takes place, if you got 11 out there and they still want to play, you still can field a team, let's do it. But like I said before, I mean, I really believe that a lot of these kids, from what I understand from the doctors, we're getting some mixed messages here, and the inconsistency. One of the things, travel baseball is running rampant. It ran rampant all summer long with no restrictions whatsoever. And, I mean, with hundreds of teams playing travel baseball. And, I mean, you never heard anything about whether that was contagious or not. So, I mean, it's actually been proven. That was a great test balloon for us. If that's happening, even though it's baseball, there's not contact, you all know they were sitting next to one another. So there was not a better illustration of a test balloon. It was that. So that's what I'm saying, that we need to give it a shot, and whenever it might be. But if we don't try, if we continue to bump it one more time in phase 2, I don't see if there's enough time element in there. And the NCAA is talking about the colleges maybe going to the spring and then turn around and playing again in the fall. That won't fly with playing 20 games in 1 year.
No, Ed mentioned that earlier.
No,
and you mentioned the baseball. Legion played all summer. And, of course, the Louisiana Knights, based on the North Shore, they played over at MGM Park in Biloxi all summer long. They played there like 4 different weekends. I was there a couple of times. So, Ed?
Yeah, I witnessed myself
Coach,
firsthand.
Coach, I see all these pictures all over Facebook that people are posting all the time about their children, boys and girls, playing in summer leagues, either softball, baseball, volleyball, soccer, anything. And I don't see – I'm looking at these pictures, and I notice one thing. I don't see any social distancing.
Right. Amen.
Or masks, Coach.
Or
masks.
We're held to a different standard in football. We always have been. The sport itself is held to a different standard. Not only plus about this is that I'm not hearing another protocol on concussions. So, right prior to the season, how many lectures you get on protocol about what you do about concussions?
Right.
Well, but, you're right. I mean, my kids, I can't control them. I can control them when they come to practice. We're 6 foot apart. The offensive line is 6 foot apart. I mean, it's really silly the way we're practicing out there. But yet, how can I control them when they leave my campus and they go home? They socialize with one another. They sleep at one another's house. They're having these little, not groups and sleepovers and stuff like that. And the more they're out of school, the more that's taking place. So, I mean, you're exactly right. And how do you know if you do get the virus? How do you know where you get it from? I don't know. I mean, there's so many inconsistencies out there. My players are checked at 6:30 in the morning when we practice in the summer. They check. They have to go through the questionnaire. They have a fever check. But that same kid turns around in the afternoon and goes play the American Legion baseball, like you said earlier, Ken, with no restrictions. And I said, wait a minute now, I don't get it. So my point being that it's been inconsistency all the way across the board.
Right. Here's another thing too, Coach. Football is supposed to be king in Louisiana. Okay. Would you agree? Isn't that the deal? Football is number one, right?
Oh, look what it does to your school. I mean, in terms of not only financially.
Right, but coach, my point is, how many administrators don't like football and want to see it fail?
Well, we're very fortunate in that respect because my principal kids played for me. So that's very fortunate from that respect. But you do have that element. And my principal was very, very proactive in getting sports and everything, getting the school back in the school. She worked herself in the State Department of Education, and so we're both on the same page about really, really being aggressive about trying to get our kids back in school, but safely. We're going to go through all the protocol. We're going to do that, and maybe overkill to a certain extent, but we're going to do that. But you're exactly right. I mean, we all know there's those people out there that are saying this, and like my point is, if you don't want to do the virtual school, that's fine too. But there's nothing like being in class. There's nothing like Friday night football, as you know, with your show. There's nothing like those cheerleaders and Star Steppers in homecoming. And the atmosphere in the school on a Friday, you can hear a buzz in the cafeteria. Yeah, you can't put that in a can of a Campbell soup. You know what I mean? That's something that the value system that football gives kids, and just in general, the whole student body and the community itself, with the tailgating and the quarterback club meetings.
Right.
I mean, it's got many tentacles to this, and like I said, more importantly, it's a value system that you teach in the community, not only just your players.
Right, but you know what, Coach? You win 5 consecutive championships in any other sport, it flies under radar. All right. If you win 2 or 3 in a row in football, guess what? You're quote unquote a football factory. Am I right?
Well, yeah. Ed, what happens in our society, it's really unbelievable. How do we judge things? I mean, football, as I told you, they're held to a different standard, and we should be. I mean, my players are held to a different standard in the classroom and on the field naturally. If a football player gets injured seriously, it makes headline news. But yet, that's nothing for a 16-year-old to have the car keys that go 150 miles an hour. You know what I mean? And but what I'm saying is that there is a double standard, and we're held to that, which we should be, because football is voluntary. But yet, I think a lot of them are scared away from it. You know, when the concussion thing came about, and I mean, people were running away from it. I mean, I had parents tell me, I don't want my football, I don't want my son playing because he might get a concussion. Well, concussions, we've all played before concussions were even a big deal. And we would call it dinged. You got dinged and you went back in the game after a while. But nowadays it's a big issue. So my point being is that we're a different time. We're a totally different time. What I tell my players, we practice every day in full pads and no water break. When we first started, in fact, it was always August the 15th is when we started. And running, it's because the whole school didn't have air conditioning. They think I'm smoking wacky weed. You know what I mean? They don't believe those times. But it's a different time now.
Visiting with Frank Monica, about 3 minutes left. All right, so you had a great season last year, reached the championship game with a good football team. What about your team this year, and what do you like about your team? And talk about a few of the players that clearly are guys that we're going to watch for if and when you get on the field.
Ed, we have a linebacker. First of all, we have a real good coaching staff. We don't have many of us, but we have an excellent coaching staff. I have a linebacker by the name of Mandel Eugene that's already committed to Tulane. And I don't know how many stars he's got by his name, and I really got to talk to someone. Whoever puts those stars there, I mean, I don't know who they are. The desk jockey of some kind, but this kid is one of the best linebackers I've ever coached on any level. He's a throwback player. He can run. He can hit. And, I mean, he's a fantastic leader on the field, loves the game. He can't wait to practice. And I said, what's wrong with you? I said, you're the only guy I've ever seen likes to practice. You know, but anyway, he's a tremendous player. And I got a couple people returning on defense. I think that are going to be very, very good players. I got Cade Prejean. He's not little mighty might. He's only about 5'7", but he'll strike a blow on you. And, I mean, so we feel pretty good about our defense. We got Moses Clark, who's has to trim down a little bit. Moses got himself he's been eating too many Twinkies, but he's got to trim down a little bit. He's a nose guard. Caden Jones is another defensive tackle for us. Cameron Campbell, I expect big things from him as a corner because all these guys have played for us and have some experience. Josh Tomplay is going to be the other linebacker himself. And we just have a few people to replace, but our demise is going to be the inexperience on the offensive line. We have to take some retread from the defense, move them over there, and a lot of them are short like me. They can look me eye to eye. That's not good. And it's totally new to them. And so we're rebuilding that whole offensive line. We got one guy, Rustin West is the only guy that's returning with some experience. I have a fine tight end. He's up to about 225. His name is Brock Clemon. I think he's going to be a real good player for us, and it won't be a secret. We'll run behind him, and we still use a tight end a lot. And he's not going to lead the field too much. And I got a real good running back by the name of Keenan Goff, and I think Keenan's got, he's a home run hitter, and he'll be a punt return specialist, kick return specialist, and expecting big things. I got a couple of receivers, Kendall Harris, Joe Nuccio. I'm expecting big things from them. Troy Johnson, Dylan Brown, all those guys. They're returning seniors now. We got a couple of them that are 4 or 5 guys. Quarterback situation, I got Zach Bickner, who's he's more of a runner, wildcat guy. He scored a couple of touchdowns in the state championship game for us against Lafayette Christian. And, behind him, I've got a guy by the name of Reed Lendesh, and Reed is pushing for a starting job there. So you're going to see both in the game. And I got a guy by the name of Logan Forsythe, who's an all-purpose player. He plays anywhere I need him. But if I can get that offensive line, together, because right now it's a revolving door who's going to be there. I mean, we might have to play 3 downs and punt and play defense a little bit. But they have a lot to learn in offensive line, and we can't do it now. I mean, without going against one another, we don't know what they know, and that's awfully difficult. So I can't wait till we get back and back to normal, and we're going to have special team practices and stuff like that.
About a minute left, Coach. It's a loaded class. I mean, you mentioned Lafayette Christian. We know about Notre Dame, Catholic New Iberia. Newman's really good again. Dunham is always good. Holy Savior Menard Episcopal. That's a loaded class, isn't it?
You're right, Ken. I mean, from top to bottom, there's not an easy one in there. You say, well, what's your power ranking? It doesn't matter, because pick one out of the hat there, and you got a great opponent. You know what I mean? And you're going to go down to the wire. I mean, last year we were very, very lucky. We had 2 ball games. One ball game was won at the wire, and the other, we had 2 ball games that went overtime. One went with 3 overtimes, the other went with 2 overtimes. So we were very, very lucky last year. But you can't rely on that. And what I'm disappointed in, I lost 2 games. Our first 2 games home games. We lost them, and I was playing another team from Mississippi, and they can't come to us because now our dates don't match up. So I've lost 3 home games out of this thing, and out of the 7 I have on the board, I only have 2 home games. So we're trying to fill that third playing date with someone, and hopefully get at least an 8th playing date if that's the possibility. And I think by that time, I do think we'll play.
Frank Monica, St. Charles Catholic. Thank you so much for the time, Ed, and I appreciate it. And we're sure hoping that we get a chance to see your team play.
Okay, guys, I have an extra
lawnmower.
Ed, and I got a weed eater for you. Okay.
Anytime you need it, Coach. Look, I still cut my grass. If there's one of the 2 co-hosts here, okay, who still work in their yard, it's not Ken Trahan.
It's not Ken Trahan, and it never will be.
I'm going to talk to your wife about that. I got to verify that. Okay, guys.
Oh, you talk to Robin about that. Talk to Robin. She'll talk to you about it.
I know she will. Tell her hello. All right, guys.
All right, Frank.
All right, Coach.
Thank you,
See
Coach.
You later, man.
God bless you. Frank Monica, you got it. You too. St. Charles Catholic.